Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria, and this is my AfterThoughts review to Foal, Sister, and I usually hate watching characters fight, but this was actually pretty good, and I actually really enjoyed this episode, so it's time to play. I know it's an animatic, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It was really surprising to not have Zip's voice actor voicing Zip, because yeah, this is exactly what I was expecting to happen with these animatics. Here's a temp voice by someone. It's like, here, you just play this character and recite these lines so that the animators have someone to listen to. Probably because the real voice actor is unavailable and on another gig, but that's the way this goes, I'm afraid. And yeah, it wasn't a woman's voice, but I think that voice actor actually did an okay job, so I usually hate watching ponies fight, it makes me so sad. But this episode was actually really almost entertaining and fun, because there's definitely fighting and stuff going on, but there's a lot of other fun things going on around it. The fight never devolves into like mean fighting where, you know, like real feelings are getting hurt and like the things that they're kind of arguing about are in some ways classic sibling, you know, things to argue about. And a lot of these things are, yeah, you just need to talk it out with this person and, you know, work it out. Like, yeah, I shouldn't take your stuff without asking, and yeah, I should listen to you more, so okay, I'm sorry. Still, even though these are not huge problems, they're still problems that they obviously need to work out, and that's why the Crystal Bright House in some ways put them through all this, because as sort of once said on Babylon 5, big problems grow from small problems. If you don't deal with the small problems, they can turn into much bigger problems to the point where, yeah, you basically blow up at that person, as sort of what happens during this episode. At first, it's like, oh, you keep taking my stuff, and blah, 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 blah. And then when they're starting to like fall through all the alternate realities, then we kind of get to sort of like the heart of the problem. Well, you're always perfect, and you always think you know best, and blah, 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 blah. It was actually kind of good that there were moments where it's like, we actually got to, you know, in some ways hear both sides of the story. Neither one of these ponies is either right or wrong. They both have issues that they have to work out with each other. And I kind of like how the Crystal Bright House is in some ways doing this. As long as they continue to fight, they keep falling more and more into these alternate realities to the point where it's literally just them in the middle of the ocean on a raft where they have no choice but to work this out with each other. So, sort of, because it might have been a bit much putting our poor pony heroes in mortal peril to just work stuff out with each other. I do like how the Crystal Bright House has essentially become a character, an almost sort of like parent character that in this episode is deciding that, alright, you two, stop that fighting, you're gonna go and work this out whether you want to or not, so So, it was kind of tough love from this episode, but given the situation, I think it was kind of, necessary. But fortunately, Pip and Zip were able to figure this out, and everything works out. So, there were a lot of fun things going on in this episode. Zip is like, oh, not again! That's exactly what I was thinking. The thing with the snowballs I thought was really funny, because, oh, you're so perfect, and and going on about these things, and then all of a sudden, oh look, the giant snowball. Oh! Pip is like, oh, just a little itty-bitty snowball. The Crystal Bright House is probably thinking, well, I was trying to be nice and gentle, but since you want to play hardball, The Crystal Bright House is dealing with the obvious thing that they could do, which is, okay, we're just gonna fly away. Well, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. You have to go back and work this out with your sister. So, I think back to like the elements of harmony, and that oftentimes when it comes down to the villains when they've been reformed, is that what the elements of harmony are really doing is removing their power and their ability to, you know, in some ways resist, shall we say. Nobody wants to listen when they're in charge, when they think it's like, haha, I don't have to listen to you. But when you take all those things away, and now as our pony heroes are in this episode, we're just floating on a raft in the middle of the ocean and there's a storm coming, so, you know, the only way to get out of this is to, you know, work this out, so let's work this out. Which still was kind of dangerous though. Going into focus on video/analysis mode, it's kind of an interesting question of exactly how does this all work. Pip describes it as sort of like an alternate reality, quote-unquote, nightmare, which I can understand the nightmare part, but are they actually like going anywhere, or is this just sort of like in some weird magic room? Are they actually being like teleported to these locations and actually being in real mortal peril? Those are interesting questions, which I honestly don't really have answers to, so, oh. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that they're still in the Crystal Bright House, and it's almost a quote-unquote virtual experience that feels very real, but they're probably not in any real danger, because I'm sure that's not what the Crystal Bright House wanted to do. The Crystal Bright House just wants them to work this out, so roar. This episode is definitely analyze worthy. Even going back and watching this again, I still don't in some ways fully understand this conflict. There's actually a fair amount that's going on between the two that we didn't really see that was there, but when I think about it, it's like, oh, I could totally see them saying that. In general, it's, oh, the other thinks that they're perfect, they never do anything wrong, and all those sorts of things, and being princesses and just being who and what they are, I could kind of understand that. But in any case, there's definitely a lot to go back and look at and analyze and be like, oh, that was an interesting side of these characters that I didn't know was there. But now that I know it's there, it's like, oh, I wish I thought of that, but that's really interesting. So, roar. So overall, I actually really enjoy this episode. Normally, I don't like episodes like this, but because there's so many fun things going on between Pip and Zip, the Crystal Bright House, and these alternate realities, it doesn't feel like a heavy, difficult episode. It actually kind of feels almost like it's a fun episode where, you know, we get to see Pip and Zip work out this problem with each other, which I think is really good because these are the kinds of problems that siblings and or roommates go through a lot, so I think a lot of people could identify with this episode and what they're going through. And I did kind of like the very bit at the end of that they do actually work this out, but when Senor Butterscotch asks, all right, who made this mess? They both say, she did it! So even though, yeah, they've both worked this problem out, they're still sisters and they're gonna continue to have these problems in the future, but the good news is after this experience, they'll probably be better at handling it and actually resolving those problems, rather than everything just blowing up in their faces like it sort of did in this episode, so. But again, overall, I really liked this episode. It was really fun. They got the message across really well, and I think this is an episode that a lot of people can relate to, and overall, I really liked what this episode was trying to do. I think it accomplished it very well, and overall, I enjoyed it a lot, so. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you for commenting, liking, and subscribing, and until next time, this is Blue Star. Stay strong, and pony on. Blue Star out.